Learning jazz guitar chords can seem like an overwhelming and difficult task. Some of the grips are quite difficult and it can be hard to apply them to repertoire. Because of this, I've put this guide together to help you get started with some easy jazz guitar chords. Okay, so each of the chords that I'm going to show you is only going to have 3 notes, and you're going to learn one inversion with the root on the 6th string and another inversion with the root on the 5th string. Just like bar chords, which most of you are already comfortable with, I'm hoping at least anyway. So if you'd like to get the tab for the chords which I'm going to be using, then these chords are found in my beginner jazz guitar ebook. It's a free downloadable ebook. It's 62 pages. There's etudes, chords, licks, everything you need to know to get started with jazz guitar is found in this book. If you'd like to go and get your free copy of that, then please just visit the link below, which is listed in the video description, and you can enter your email address and I'll send you a copy of that, so you've got the tab for these chords and you can get started on your jazz guitar journey. So let's begin. As I said, I'm going to show you a 3-note version of each of the main jazz chord types. So what are the main jazz chord types? So there are 3 basic chord types which you can think of almost any single jazz chord as being one of. So the first is a major 7th chord, which has a really sweet sound like this. The next is a dominant 7 chord, more of a bluesy sound, and the last one is a minor 7 chord. Okay, so some of you may be wondering, well, where's the minor 7 flat 5 chord? Well, I'll answer that question in a little while. To give you a quick answer to that, the minor 7th chord, basically the 3 notes that we're going to be learning, which are in each chord, are the root, 3rd and 5th. So because there is no 5th in the minor 7 that I'm going to show you, it doesn't really clash with a minor 7 flat 5 chord. Okay, I'm not saying all the time you want to use a minor 7 chord in place of a minor 7 flat 5, but if you were using a minor 7 chord without no 5th, it's not going to really get in the way of someone else if they're playing a minor 7 flat 5 chord. Okay, so let's begin with major 7 chords. Okay, so this is the first C major 7 chord that I'd like to show you. We've got a C on the 8th fret of the low E string, we have a B natural on the 9th fret of the D string, and then we've got an E natural on the 9th fret of the G string there. Okay, so that's root, 7 and 3. One thing to note is that I'm omitting the A string from this chord. I'm playing this as a 3-string chord here, and you can play this several ways. You can basically just choke that A string, strum down, get the chord that way. You could use hybrid picking, or you could use fingerstyle like that, really. The choice is completely up to you. So that's the first chord. Alright, so like I said, 2 inversions for this chord. Here's the first inversion. The next one is down here, and we have root again, C note, 3rd fret of the A string, E note, 2nd fret of the D string, and a B natural, 4th fret of the G string. Okay, so basically what's happened is that the notes have been inverted, hence the term inversion. Here we had root 7 3, here we have root 3 7. Okay, so it's still the same chord, a slightly different sound, an inversion. Alright, major 7 chord. So it is very important when you learn these chords to be aware of what intervals are under your finger. Okay, so root 7 3. This is because if we have to amend the chord like we're going to do now, we're going to amend the major 7th chord to become a dominant 7th chord, we need to find the 7th and move it down a semitone, so then we have the dominant 7th chord, which is like that. Okay, you can do the same thing with the inversion with the root on the 5th string there. So root, 3, 5, find the 7th, move it down a semitone, and you get that. Okay, the dominant 7 chord, more of a bluesy sound, and a bit less bright than a major 7 chord. In terms of the fingering, for the dominant 7 chord, I'm sure many of you will prefer to play it like this. That tends to be the common way in which most of you play it. From a blues background, so I learnt a lot of my chords, you know, playing the root there with my thumb. So that's how I play this chord with the root on the 6th string. So I play it thumb, and then the A string still muted, then index and ring. And I like this because if I need to grab other extensions, I can do that, and the thumb is basically freeing up other fingers there. Okay, so, but you don't have to use that finger if you don't want. For this one, I'm just using middle finger, index and ring, which is a fairly common grip for that chord. Okay, so there we have it. 2 different inversions for the C7 chord. Alright, so the last of the 3 chord types which we're going to have a look at is the minor 7th chord. Alright, so a minor 7 chord has only one note difference from a dominant 7 chord, and that is the 3rd. So remember we had Ru, flat 7, 3. The minor 7 chord, we're now going to have Ru, flat 7, flat 3, and E flat there. Okay, Ru, flat 7, flat 3. Same thing here. Get the dominant 7 chord, Ru, find the 3rd, flatten it, and then flat 7. Okay, so those are my 2 minor 7th chord inversions. Alright, so they are the 6 chords. So in jazz, and really other kinds of music as well, I always suggest learning everything in all 12 keys. Why? Well, let's just say you're looking at a chord chart now, and you know, say if it was not even jazz, say if it was just a simple chord chart with bar chords or something like that, then you just know those chords without even thinking about what they are. And I think one way in which you can fast track that is to play things in all 12 keys. So all you have to do is just sit here and take, say, one of those chords that we've just learnt, say C major 7, just move it down every fret and say out the name of the chord. So you're making that mental connection as well. C major 7, B major 7, B flat major 7, A, etc, etc. A slightly more musical way in which you can practice this is to practice the chords in a sequence of 4s. Okay, so if you start on a C chord, count up 4, C, D, E, F, then F is a 4th above C. Okay, so a good way in which you can practice in a sequence of 4s is you can play C major 7 right there, then go to the F major 7, B flat is a 4th up from F major 7, then E flat is a 4th up from B flat, so you can practice the chords like this. And the good thing about the cycle of 4ths is that you come back to where you started. Now, rather than just see the symmetrical nature of that exercise, it's very important that you say what the chords are, because then you're making that connection as well, so that when you're looking at a sheet of paper and, oh, there's a B flat major 7, you kind of in your mind you've already played a B flat major 7 before that occurs. Okay, so that's important to do. Oh yeah, one other thing, when you're doing this cycle of 4ths, all 12 keys exercises, you want to, besides starting it on a C there, start it on a B as well. If I could play it right, hang on. It's a bit more difficult when you get to this, when you're going from the F to the B flat, so at that point you could just jump it up 12 frets, so you could do. Okay, because then if you start the chords with the root on the, after you've done the cycle of 4ths the first time, starting on C, you're kind of missing the note in between. When you go there, you're kind of going 2 frets down. So if you start it on the B as well, you're going to cover all grounds. Okay, so it's important that you do that. Alright, so if you haven't done this yet, then pause the video, make sure that you've got all of these chords available in all 12 keys. So really what I mean by that is if I say, hey, I need you to play a G major 7 root on the 6th string, I need it like that. Or if I say, can you play a D minor 7th root on the 5th string, you know, I need prompt responses or else you're going to struggle with the next step. So I'm now assuming that you've learned all the easy jazz chords in 12 keys. There should be no hesitation about locating any one of those in any single key. And if you look in the beginner jazz guitar guide, which you should have downloaded, there's a little quiz there, and that actually says some chords, and that you can actually use that to test yourself to make sure that you're ready for this next part. Okay, so now that you've got these under your fingers, it's time that we make some music with them. So if you look on the PDF, the Beginner Jazz Guitar Guide, you will see that I've written out 3 different chord charts for you. The chord charts are Tune Up, Ladybird and Autumn Leaves. Okay, 3 common jazz standards. So what you'll see first is just the chord sheet without any indication of what rhythm or melody there is whatsoever. Okay, so that's sometimes on a gig, that's what you get. You know, if you're on playing in a big band gig or something like that, you sometimes get melodies if you play on those type of things, but sometimes it's just chord charts as well. So you're not being told what inversions you use, you're not being told what rhythm, that's up to you to decide. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a little bit of the process with you now, just so you're aware of what kind of happens here. So let's just take Tune Up. Okay, that's the first one in the Beginner Jazz Guitar Guide. What we have here, the first 2 lines of that music, the first 8 bars, are 2-5-1s. We have a 2-5-1 in the key of D major, then a 2-5-1 in the key of C major. Okay, so that's what is going on harmonically. And it is always a good idea to try and get some harmonic grounding initially. So if you can kind of see that, oh, actually we're playing 2-5-1s in this tune, the next tune also uses 2-5-1s, then you're able to see the bigger picture and you're able to link some of the common movements that you can just then transfer to other tunes as well. Alright, so Tune Up, the first line, let's go with that, the 2-5-1 in D. So we have an E minor 7 chord, an A7 chord and a D major 7 chord. So what you first need to do is find an E minor 7 chord. So hopefully from doing the exercise you can just find that E minor 7 chord right there. So we started in C, you played all these in all 12 keys, so E minor 7 chord is right there. Okay, and then the next chord is an A dominant 7. So you now need to think about voice leading. Where is the nearest available A7 chord to that E minor 7 chord? Hopefully, if you take a minute to think about that, you realise that going all the way up to the 12th fret is not really ideal. It's not good to jump from one part of the neck all the way up like that when there's an A on the 5th fret of the low E string. So that would be the A7 which I will play. Okay. The very last chord that we need to find is a D major 7 chord. So same process. So we have E minor 7, A7, and the last chord a D major 7 chord. I will play it there rather than all the way up there. Okay. So there are all 3 chords. What you need to then do is to play all these chords with a very slow sense of time just to get your fingers around them. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do that for the entire tune. Obviously I'm not going to show you everything that I'm doing here because that'll defeat the purpose of the exercise. And of course in the Beginner Jazz Guitar Guide you will see the enter chord charts first, but if you go into the next pages you actually see the chord inversions that I would use put in there as well. So it's good to use those after you've had a go at doing them for yourself. Alright, so the first step really is to slowly go through each of those chords in time. So you can even do it at a time really, just to begin with. It's good to have some, rough idea of, time going along, but it doesn't have to necessarily be strict time. Okay, just to get the chords underneath your fingers so you can go through the entire tune like that using these easy 3-note chords. Okay, so that's step one. Having done that, you now need to try and make this sound like jazz a little bit. Okay, so one rhythm that you can use to make these sound like jazz is called the Charleston, which is a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth note. On an E-7 chord, that rhythm sounds like this. So what I would do is I would then play through that entire chord sequence just using that rhythm. I'll play you maybe 12 bars, something like that. So then you've got some rhythm, it sounds like jazz, and you've got all these chords in the right place where they need to be. So far so good. Okay, so that is the second step, so to speak. Going beyond that, you want to have some rhythmic variation as well, and now that's kind of the big topic, but on the etude that I wrote in the Beginner Jazz Guitar Guide, I did write out some variations of this as well. So one very quick variation that I'll show you right now is that Charleston rhythm. You can start that on the end of one as well. So on beat 1, then that's on the end of 1. Okay, so I'll play through the 4-2-5-1. I'll start with a Charleston, then I'll displace it by an eighth note. So now, when I'm doing this, I'm not using a metronome, but you definitely should, especially if these rhythms are new to you and you haven't looked at them before. Using a metronome will ensure that you're playing correctly in time. And then beyond that, you then want to play these things with the backing track. Okay, and of course, once again, that Beginner Jazz Guitar Guide does have the backing tracks as well. So you've got the everything that you need is found within that. So. And that will be the last stage of testing you with this etude really. So the initial thing is being able to just play the chords, voice lead them, I guess is the term I'm looking for, going through them. The second is to then add a simple rhythm to them, like the Charleston. And the third is to put the backing track on and play with that, because that is realistically how you're going to play these chords. You're either going to play them with someone else or you're going to play them with a band, and if you're used to playing them with bass and drums, then that's going to prepare you for how things are going to be like when that time comes. Okay, so this is my introduction to beginner jazz guitar chords, easy 3-note jazz chords. Hopefully your fingers are not hurting too much from these. I think they're a great chord type to start with. Going beyond this, you may want to look at some of my videos on drop 2 chords, and that basically suggests some ways in which you can play these inversions across the top 4 strings. Of course, any of the chords which we've talked about in today's lesson, any of these 12 shapes can be used as the basis for a shell chord or an extension. So if you could get, for example, a dominant 7 chord and then add a 13, add a flat 13. So that's something you may want to look at as well. Extended chords are a good way to go on from here. One final thing I almost forgot to mention is that the minor 7 flat 5 chord, and that is basically, if you see that a chord chart says a minor 7 flat 5, then you can just play a regular minor 7, the one that I showed you, instead of a minor 7 flat 5. Okay, going into the future, it would be a good idea to get those minor 7 flat 5 chords under your belt, but this video is all about keeping things simple to begin with, only giving you 12 chords and seeing how much you can do with these 12 chords. So once you've gone through tune up, then, you know, before really going on to the other things that I've just mentioned, like drop 2 chords and extended chords, work through those other 2 etudes. And then beyond that, you know, try and find any chord chart to any tune you want to play and try and go through several of those. And you'll hopefully find that when you've been doing this, for some people it could be a couple of weeks, for others it might be a month or 2, that you'll be able to just get a chord chart and play almost anything within a few seconds. Sometimes you won't even need to hear it, and you'll be able to do it on the spot. That's, you know, what the goal is with these chords. Okay, so very important that you're at that level with these chords before getting overwhelmed and rushing into some of the other chord types as well. Okay, so that brings this lesson to a close. I hope that you found this useful and that these chords help you on your journey to get started as a jazz guitar player. If you enjoyed this tutorial, I'd really appreciate it if you could give me a thumbs up, and if you subscribe to the channel, that would help me enormously. Please share your thoughts on these jazz guitar chords. What do you think of them? Are you going to use them? Was it a complete waste of your time? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, thank you.